3:30 a.m. Yeah. All right, the hour is 9:30. I call to order this meeting of the Columbus Common Council Committee of the Whole for Tuesday, June 6, 2017. My apologies for speaking so closely to the microphone. Ann, please take the roll when you are ready.
Hendrickson.
Here.
Kenny.
Here.
Malat.
Still here.
Reed.
Here.
Rule.
Here.
Tome.
Here.
Traxler.
Here.
All right, this meeting has been noticed and approved according to state statutes. Now we need a motion to approve the agenda unless there are alterations or deletions. I do have two. We are going to table item number 12, which is city website and social media assistance. And we are going to table item number 20, which is a closed session item. Right. Next time, guys, don't worry.
So
we'll,
moved.
We'll pay double time.
Is that all we could cut? 21.
At this point, yeah.
Well, yeah, and 21 subsequently.
Good catch. All right, we won't have to reconvene to open session. True.
Can I second that?
And do we need roll call on that one? No? All right, so everybody in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. Anyone sign up for public comments? No. Does anybody wish to speak at this time? Absolutely not. So let's get into this with item number 5, which is a written report being submitted. It's the 2016 annual report from Columbus Water and Electric Utilities. And I believe we're just accepting this in written form for the record.
Correct. That was included in your packet, offered by Superintendent Anthony as a written form.
Looks great. Accepted. Move on. Number 6, lease agreement for space in the building at 251 West James Street, also known as the Library Annex.
Cindy Fessmeyer has come up with a plan to lease the second floor of the library annex building to various artists on a short-term basis to allow them studios to work. I put together a short lease, not so much worried about the rent that is going to be required or paid, but more about the insurance issues and about the liability issues and the damage to the property issues. So I tried to focus on those issues. The lease is fairly straightforward. The issue for the council, though, is how, if the lease is acceptable to the council, the issue is how do we get them executed. The city is the owner of the building, which would require the mayor and the clerk to sign all leases that apply to city property. Cindy foresees that there's going to be could be a fairly large amount of tenants coming in and out month to month. And does the city council want the mayor and the clerk to review and sign all the leases, or does this council want to authorize Pete Kalin as the library board president to be that person for efficiency and economic purposes? That's the issue that's before you, in addition to any questions you would have about the lease.
I guess my first question / comment is wondering if there could be a separate document for the subleasers. I like this for the individual that's going to be organizing all the subleases, but I think we need something really official and with some language about expectations and what if there are any damages will happen that goes directly to the subleasers.
There are going to be subleasers?
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
I think they were looking for a person to kind of do a all-over coordination.
Right.
But my understanding is that each individual that would procure space would be a leasee.
Right.
Okay.
I think there is
Okay.
language in the lease agreement that a person does not have a right to sublease to to somebody else. I believe I saw it in there. So the individuals that would use a room
Right.
would not be a sublease. They would be a
A
person
leasee.
actually signing the lease.
Right.
Okay.
I understood there to be a coordinator.
A
but
coordinator, yes.
It's set up right now that each little room is gonna be its own individual lease, which is
Okay.
why you're gonna have five of
Umpteen.
these going at any one point in time.
All right, so specifically the issue at hand is, are we comfortable with Mr. Kalen having the authority to review and sign these leases going forward? Rod,
I'm comfortable, yes.
I am as well. Anyone else? Questions? I assume, Mr. Kalen, you're comfortable with it?
Yes.
Okay, good. Andy?
I'm just glancing at this again, and so each month-to-month lessee would be required to get $500,000 of liability insurance. Is that accurate?
Correct. We ran this by Dennis Bukta, and it sounds like an impossible task, but it's
Not a
actually
big task.
fairly simple by putting a rider on their homeowners or getting some kind of other coverage. So, but we are gonna require them to post that, yes.
So, number one, are we comfortable with the lease? And number two, are we comfortable with authorizing Mr. Kalen?
Yes and yes.
I'm a
Comfortable
double
with
yes
both.
as well.
Yep.
Matt, you got a question?
Sorry, one last question.
You bet.
Number 4 for rent, who would be setting the amount? That'd be per leasee based on Mr. Kalen's purview, or are we setting a certain amount? Would Cindy have something built into that?
Well, I think there's one step in that process. Cindy has worked with the individuals to kind of come up with a price. I don't sign any leases unless the library board authorizes me to sign documents. So in that sense, yeah, there's some negotiation, but it would go
Through the
before the
library
library
board. Okay.
board to say, no, this is the wrong amount, this should be more, this should be less, whatever.
You're just the rubber stamp.
Yes,
Okay.
just like the mayor and other documents.
Any more discussion on this, or
I'm good.
at this point, I think we have consensus to move this forward to the regular meeting? All right,
With the intent of placing Pete Kalen
yes.
as the designee.
Accepting the lease and giving the authorization to Pete Kalen to sign these after the library board has approved them.
Is there a second?
Probably rather than listing me, it should be the library board president.
Yes.
Okay, library board president.
And then the second-
Or we're locking you in
Perfect,
forever.
thank you, Pete.
Second signature?
Are we gonna require a second signature or just the library board president?
Okay.
I'll just make a change for the next.
All right, next item, consider using Aquatic Center Facebook page for notifications, programs, events, etc.
If I may?
Yep, absolutely,
Great.
Patrick, please.
Great. About a little over a year ago, we had the council approved a social media policy, which we established 2 city Facebook pages, one for a general city of Columbus, the other for the recreation page, and sets up a process for how we disseminate information on those. Given that the aquatic center is, very specific and sensitive to weather changes and programming and daily, closing and everything, we're asking the council's approval to add the aquatic center to build their own page as well. It's worked pretty well to have those announcements go on the recreation page, but sometimes we reach a further audience for those who are fans of the aquatic center. So it seems to make sense to build around that, even to promote some special events. This would follow the same procedures as the policy. So we're here before you to get feedback and input on that proposal.
First again, Matt, there's got to be a ribbon for this, man, at some point.
Apparently I just need to shut up sometimes. I guess the one question I have is, if by forming a second page, would there necessarily be crossover between the rec and the aquatic center? And if you have, 1,000 followers for the rec, I would assume that the same people who are following the rec are probably going to follow the aquatic center page. And that if the whole idea of if you build it, they will come for that page for the aquatic center, and that they wouldn't then follow the rec page. It seems like by making a second page, we're going to create another layer of potential mistakes, I guess, for lack of a better word. It says one thing on the rec page, and potentially as we're transferring over or in the process, I guess I'm seeing it. Is there an issue that's being solved by this? Are people expressing that there's not the information out there about the pool specifically that's on the rec page? And if that's the case, would doing more due diligence on the rec page simply satisfy that requirement, as opposed to forming a second page that opens up a different kind of
I think
issues?
Yeah, I think the aquatics having first, I see going forward we have the 2 pages generally the same postings can come from both, because the rec page does have a lot of followers. We reach a lot of people, but I think having the aquatic center page, allows it to establish its own identity. It's an entity we're trying to build on, and broaden the spectrum of those following it so they can get a little bit more attention onto the center. So I think for that reason, that's really the driving force here. I could see virtually every thing that the CAAC page post would also be subsequently put on the rec, though.
Yeah, I guess I'm not opposed to having a second page. I would say if we go forward with this, that we opt to review metrics and whatnot and numbers from the aquatic center, the CAC page, to make sure that it's doing anything. I feel like by creating this, we might end up having a rec page full of people, and then kind of a couple people who are specifically following the aquatic center, and just make sure that if that's the case, if we address that 6 months from now or a year from now, just make sure it's actually doing what it's our intent.
I think it'd be appropriate, after the swim season to, review and see what benefits that page has brought, or drawbacks, as they might be.
Okay.
Mike?
I'll speak to what Patrick had said too. This conversation came out of the last CAAC advisory board meeting when trying to promote the grand opening and the Pelican slide contest, things like that, but also Ken Brauskowski, who's the pool manager. I think if he's included in this mix, it's not just redundancy of the rec page. I think the rec page has to cover a lot of bases, and so if there's something last minute that happens where swimming lessons are canceled because the temperature is questionable, this is more directly related just to the CAAC, where they can get that message out and you don't have to wade through the whole news feed of, say, the rec page. So, and part of the discussion was also the migration that happened this last year on the rec page from one page to another, and there was some discussion where people who were somewhat active on social media hadn't found that new page yet. So by creating another additional pool page, if the pool is your concern, here's where you can go for it. So I think some people may have been lost in that migration off of the rec page. So I think this can be used as a marketing tool for other programs in town as well, and rec-related programs, but I think the intent is to have specific information when needed, weather related to the pool. So.
Okay. Trina, you're next.
I just felt that the pool, the aquatic center, can definitely use its own online identity. And I also feel that there's a lot of people that aren't going to want to find out about all of the sports and alternate activities, that really just want to see what's going on with the pool and its conditions at a given time. So just thought it makes sense to keep them, or not keep them, get them separated.
Rod, then Andy.
I was kind of agreeing with Matt for a while at first, thinking, well, it kind of seems redundant, and But then I started thinking and said, well, it would be nice to have its own identity. And you could get even more detailed on, the aquatic center could advertise they have a new kind of pizza or something like that, which really wouldn't be good for the recreation web, Facebook page, but it would be more appropriate for the aquatic center. So as long as the same hierarchy on who gets to run it and, everything else is good, I'm for it.
Andy?
Yeah, actually Trina said every word I was gonna say, so I just wanted to reiterate that I support this, and I think we should move it forward to the next meeting.
I'm in favor as well, too. Matt brings up a good point, but I don't think redundancy is going to be a real problem. And Rod, yeah, I like what you said. We can kind of maybe not have traffic jams on the rec page as we're digging through for that great new pizza. So, seems like we have consensus. Bring this forward to the next regular meeting. Correct? There it is. We're done. Number 8, consider contract for roof repairs for Fireman's Park, Rest Haven, and we have Davis Clark from DPW here. We were looking for some additional bids for metal roofs. The floor is yours, sir.
Okay, so thank you again for allowing me to bring this forward. In your packet, you will see that we have the rustic homes and remodeling quote, which was the one that Michael Tome brought before you last time, Capital City Sheet Metal. And then I did ask Gardner Company if they would give us a quote. They declined, and I do have that email in your packet as well. So to recap, we have three quotes for rubber roofing, just because I didn't want to leave that off the table. And we have 2 quotes for steel. And I don't know which direction you would like to go. So, here we
Andy?
Yeah, so as far as direction we'd like to go, I think we were pretty clear that we're wanted to move forward with the metal roof at the last meeting, so I would recommend that we go ahead and move this forward to the next meeting to accept the bid for the metal roof from the Rustic Homes. Thank you. I think in the long run, it's better for the parks aesthetics. It's better, for the building, itself. I think it's the right way to go.
Trina?
And I'm in agreement with Andrew. I also feel like this would be a good long-term investment that over the course of time, I think it'll wind up being cheaper since it shouldn't need replacing quite as soon as the rubber. Yay.
And again, Mr. Trexler.
I just wanted to add that with the, I would like the HLPC group to weigh in on the color of that roof. There looked like there were a lot of choices, and they're the experts in that for that building. So, when it does come down to it, and if this does get move forward and approved, that we involve them in getting a color chosen. And
they've been heavily involved in the whole process.
Regan?
Yeah, I'm
What's their
so
favorite
reading
color?
through the email from the Gardner Company. Did the issue of a warranty come up with any of the other?
No, the issue is that this is extremely flat. It's 1/2 inch per foot in rise, and that is the minimum that any of these steel roofs would go. So what his issue was is anytime you have a seam and you have snow or ice that accumulates over that seam, you have the potential for water to get in through that seam. Now, even the Capital City Sheet Metal said they don't normally put steel on this shallow of a roof. But because it is mechanically sealed, that would be the only reason they would do it.
Okay.
But this is at the very minimum pitch that a steel roof could go.
But just to understand, we're not impacting warranty going with the other.
Warranty is fully covered
Included.
under the, both other steel roof quotes.
Okay.
So are we needing to move this forward with a specific bid to consider at the regular meeting, right? Yeah? I'm sorry, say again?
If choice is made, then go to regular for award to the bidder.
Is there a consensus on the award to which company?
Rustic Homes and Remodeling?
I think that's what Andy was alluding to.
It's my,
Rustic Homes and
Where I'm
Gardens.
at, yeah.
Rustic Homes and Gardens. Yeah. Late night. Rustic Homes and Remodeling for $22,100.
I do want to point out one thing. It is $2,000 over what is budgeted, so
Good point.
someplace in there, council will have to figure out where the additional money will come from.
yep.
But yeah, I'll bring it back next meeting for that.
All right. Thank you.
Great, thank you very
That's
much.
how we will proceed.
I think we'll make that back in the next 20 minutes.
Draft Compliance Maintenance Annual Resolution, CMAR, regarding 2016 operations.
I think I can just barely or briefly describe this. This is something that comes up every year. It's essentially the DNR's report card to the Columbus wastewater treatment plant. And if you go through it, if you look at the grading system, you know that a 4.0 is a good thing. Columbus wastewater treatment got a 4.0. So it's kind of an old hat. Yeah, all the other classmates are jealous. But again, really a very good report. Been a lot of effort and with support of council to address maintenance issues and the system and everything. So that all plays into it. So I'll just say kudos to Davis and to John Namer for their efforts, their staffs, that what they put in, and puts in a lot of time to put this thing together as well. So
Let's go for it.
We have to bring this forward to the next regular
That
meeting
was
to
where I
adopt
was-
this report card, correct?
formal, yes.
Okay.
This is a compilation of all of our monthly reports and additional information. And some new stuff they want.
All right.
It has to be done in June.
We will make it June 20th. We will bring this forward. Thank you, guys. And great job at wastewater treatment with those guys. Next item is consider application to DOT for TEA grant program. And we have Mr. Letha here and Patrick.
Yeah, I think, in light of what we've been discussing with the developments at TIF 4, I mean, this is still a big piece of it. As I mentioned actually on the next item in working with Rupert Milkie, there's a little bit of coordination that staff and Jason needs to do yet to forward task order on it. But I think at this point, what we're looking for is just support to start the process at looking at this grant, and that can it's comprehensive. It's going to put in a lot of work. So I guess the more work we can get going on it, the better off we're going to be down the road. So that's what I'll say at this point.
Anybody need to discuss this one much further? I think these guys have their direction set, and so we'll wait for research and feedback. So the next topic piggybacked right off of that, and I think we're in the same spot we were with item 10. So unless there's a need for anyone to discuss, which you're perfectly able to do, we can move on, I think. All right. Yes, sorry, Jason, go ahead.
I just wanted to say on this particular item, Patrick and I discussed it last week, and I felt we should at least bring it forward to the COW, just have a quick conversation on this. Being it's a grant application, Rupert Milkie assisted the city with the 2013 grant application for the Gateway project. And I just wanted to get a little clarification and direction as to if we were going to use the same process of staff and having Rupert Milky assist. There are certain things that we do. We sub-consult out an archaeological and historical consultant, because that's one of the requirements for the 404 form that we have to fill out for the T-grant application. We also do the certification for the ped and bikeway certification for the roadway improvements. And then there's obviously a bunch of other pieces that go into the application that we have to fill out that are related to design and engineering costs and what are participating and non-participating items. So what happened last time was essentially we assisted the staff. There's a lot of stuff on the city side just to understand the complexity of the application, where there's a lot of details that have to be gathered from what the businesses are, how many jobs are created, what impact it is. And all of this is compiled into developing what that T-grant number is. And so we don't know that as the engineer, so we really need a lot of support from the staff to work with the prospect, the companies, to develop all of that along with our piece. So I wanted to make it clear that, or at least confirm that, the understanding was that Rupert Milky wasn't completing the application. We were assisting staff with completing the application. The difficulty with that is to bring you forward a task order with an exact dollar amount is hard to know exactly. And so when we get to that point, I can bring something forward and we can kind of propose a scope of what our level of effort will be. But we can talk about more next time in detail of why we picked what we did and what components we'll be performing. But I guess I just wanted to make that clear tonight when we were talking about this, because of the way that the grant is kind of a partnership between Rupert Milky and then the staff to help pull together the grant to be successful. So if that makes sense, or if I can answer any questions. But that was kind of the plan. Patrick had kind of asked about a task order possible, as a draft, and I said, well, I don't even know where to start just yet until we have a meeting and we can sit down and kind of organize that process and kind of divvy up tasks so we know what we'll be doing and how that all fits together. So I just wanted to clarify that. So
I had one question. I don't know if it's for Jason or maybe Patrick or Kim. Under additional considerations in the T-grant information, it says first come, first served, that this is not on a cycle. You can apply anytime. Is there a more favorable time to apply? Does this pool of money exist where they're just looking for the projects that qualify, or could you kind of shed some light on that part of it?
I think from what I know, we did talk with a couple of reps from DOT who didn't seem to think that deadlines or timelines are going to be important here. Just get it in. But I think it's one of those is the biennial budget sets a funding level for the grant program, and as the fund dwindles, that's the availability. Now we're coming on the end of a 2-year budget cycle with the state. By them saying that by the size of our project doesn't concern us, I don't think we have anything to be concerned about. But then again, they're working on another 2-year budget, which statutorily they have to be done by July 1st. So I think either way, that shouldn't be too much of a concern.
Okay.
And I'll just add to that I've personally participated in a lot of different grant programs at the state, and I will say that I think this was the most well-run one we've been involved in. The DOT was very directly interested in the city's success in achieving this and very helpful expediting the grant. I can't say that about all the grants we've been involved in, but this one I felt was a great grant that the city had received last time, and from the submission all the way through the reimbursement cycle, it was very smooth. So I have high praise for this program based on our past experience. So I'm pretty confident you guys will be successful and have a good grant application.
Thanks. Those are all great points that you raised, Jason. Obviously, the task order details are to be determined, the biggest one being cost or a cost range, and then obviously process, and the fact that you guys will be assisting and not merely controlling this grant application process is duly noted. Thank you. Next item 12, we did table. So now we are looking at consider and take possible action on an ordinance to create a standing joint review board. Mr. Johnson.
Yes, This was before the committee of the whole at the last meeting and was scheduled to go forward to the regular meeting and is now back here for detention or something. So I guess I don't know if there were further questions or clarifications that needed to be done or what the wish of the council is.
I asked Patrick just to put it on the committee of the whole one more time because we had the time, because I think there was some conversation at the last committee of the whole, and since it's an ordinance, I just wanted one more pass through the cow in case there was any questions.
You do have time because, well, the annual report is the annual
July.
report's done yet?
No,
Okay. The annual reports are supposed to be done by July 1, and
filed by July
this
3rd.
joint review board's task is to review those annual reports, so we do need to have this done by the next meeting if there's anything else.
Matt?
Reading through this, Paul, I didn't see any mention of a term. I remember there was some discussion about that, and I want to make sure that we drill down to what that actually was, and I don't have my
As
notes with
of-
me.
As of now, there is no term.
Okay.
And it's left open for basically the will of the council. The statute doesn't require a term, and the council can certainly set a term, but I think, and this is just my opinion, but I think the intent of this ordinance is to have these standing review boards that will then gain institutional knowledge, and it'll be the same people year after year after year after year after year. I think that's what the intent is. So I didn't put a term in, and I certainly can if you'd like one.
I believe if I recall the conversation from the last meeting surrounding this is, there was consensus that we didn't necessarily want to put a term because other taxing agencies hadn't identified that either, so.
Correct.
It would be consistent across the board since it's a new thing, so.
One additional point, if this is going to be on the agenda for the next meeting and with the mayor's absence, if you are in a position to make your appointment at the meeting after the adoption of the ordinance, you certainly can. Don't have to, but you'll have to do it either at the June 20th meeting or the first meeting of July, whenever that's gonna be held.
Okay.
So it seems as if we're comfortable moving this forward to June 20th. Kind of have to. And yes.
No, go ahead.
Okay. All right. So, my scroll's not keeping up. All right, at this point, I will take a motion to convene to close session per state statute 19.85, Part 1, Part G, to confer with legal counsel for the governing body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved.
Can we move these to the end and maybe handle the chiefs?
What's left?
Oh, there.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Good catch. Looking for a motion to go into closed
Motion to
session.
go into closed session.
Second.
And I believe we need roll call on that. Okay.
Hendrickson,
Yes. Aye.
Kenny,
Aye.
Malat,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
Rule,
Aye.
Tome,
Aye.
Traxler,
Aye.
unanimous.